All right. Hello, Jaeger. My
Thank you,
name is Ian. I'm excited to interview you today and get a little bit more of your insight onto a variety of topics. I got a wide variety of topics, but
Okay.
it should be a good one. Did you want to say anything before we start?
Well, so my name's Jaeger Gustafson. My website, for those of you watching, Mayors, that's MAYORGUS.ca. Advanced voting started yesterday, so that was October 6th. So it's going through the next few days, and it starts at 7 o'clock and goes until or 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So people can get out and start to vote. And if people want to learn how to vote, they can go to my website and they can learn to vote on there.
All right, great. So I want to start with the hot topic of the day, which is the teacher strike. So why don't you give me your thoughts on that?
So when it comes to teaching, so my background is in advanced education regulation, and also that's private and public, post-secondary. So I know a little bit, but I'm not a grade school teacher. I teach adults, which I always think is I'm not as good of a teacher, because the feedback I get from my students is the people who love me and the people who hate me. But the people in the middle, they're too polite. But teachers get a lot of practice, especially like kindergarten teachers, because they're able to get a lot of feedback from students like immediately. So these are very, very talented people. Now, what's happening with the strike is the province has put forward a plan to essentially get the money. So you want to look at how much money there is. So I don't want to say what's right or wrong in terms of the money for teachers. That's up to the teachers to decide with their union what they're going to accept. But I think if you look at the actual plan that's put out by the province, it's very fair when it comes to what they're currently getting. I think teachers in our society should be one of the most respected professions in terms of, we have a lot of specialist physicians who make a lot of money. Well, their businesses make a lot of money, but teachers, they're not really running as employees. So professionals in Alberta, a lot of them run as corporations, or they run as individual contractors. Teachers en masse are actually under regular employment. So the biggest expense that teachers really have right now in terms of finances that we could help them with is income tax. So I proposed an idea with the federal government that's called No Tax for Teachers. And it's actually a program not to change the rules for income tax, but actually an abatement. So it's a credit that can be put on and implemented very quickly. And it could be a full credit, and I propose a full credit, so no income tax for teachers. And people said, I want no income tax. I don't believe in income tax, but we got to start somewhere in terms of changing our financial system. So getting these teachers, with the respect they deserve from the federal government would make a big difference. And I think the teachers might agree with me that if they didn't have income tax, they'd see the respect. More importantly, though, people say, well, what about me? Because I'm not a teacher. So, well, then you can become a teacher. Because right now we have good teachers and we have some bad teachers. And we get stuck with these bad teachers, and they really ruin it for everybody. And so what we want to do is get more competition. So competition's good. I also believe in balancing the public and the private schools so that we have more competition. And I'm friendly competition. So all private I think is bad, all public. We have quality public options and quality private options. And I love the private options because they allow for innovation and very specialized education. So I think as long as we can balance those well, but I posted a video on my Facebook around this federal solution for teachers, and it could be rolled out in a special administrative region just like Calgary, or we could look at all of Alberta, but it would allow my three-phase plan for rolling out this no tax for teachers would involve the provinces being respected, the sovereignty of provinces being respected, as well as special considerations for Quebec, because their tax system and also their system for laws is a little bit different, so that has to be respected too. And I have all of that, including talking about templates and stuff, and CRA payroll guides. People thought, oh, you're running for mayor. I said, well, I represent Calgarians, so I'm pushing it for Calgary, no tax for teachers in Calgary. And the biggest thing too, a part of this was also a supplement talking about no tax on overtime. People want to work harder, and when you work harder, you want to get rewarded for it. But what's happening is people are getting punished for working, right? You tax cigarettes, okay, no cigarettes, good. Tax alcohol, alcohol causes cancer, don't drink too much alcohol, fine. But work, people have to work 2-3 jobs, and now they're getting taxed more. It doesn't make sense. So no tax on overtime. And when I told people, they said it's a no-brainer. It's so simple, and it will work, because then what's happening is people are getting rewarded for working more, and they're going to keep the money. If people don't want to work more, so anybody over 40 hours, then over time, I'd like to see, because as we get more AI and robotics, people are overworked. We're stressed out at our jobs, we're overworking, we're it's causing family problems, and we don't have time for our friends. So when we get more AI and robotics, we can reduce the amount of hours we work because we'll be more efficient. A lot of people, they're not working more than 5 hours a day at work. They're just pretending to be busy. So I would look at slowly then reducing that overtime to the 25 hours per week, because then you need 5 hours for your home. So we can actually shift the entire culture through, really the start is with no tax for teachers, because there's huge motivation and respect for our public sector workers, and also looking at no tax for overtime, increasing productivity. Employment's going to go up, and then what we're going to see is that actually we can slowly use that as a lever to get people into a more reasonable, humane. We're putting people back in power when it comes to their labor, and some people want to work more, but honestly, working more than 25 hours a week is actually not good for our health in our current society, and we don't have to. Productivity can go up. So yeah, teachers, they're making a deal, and I hope teachers get involved with the union. Worst thing with the union is people don't get involved. So the more teachers get involved with the union, the less bureaucratic and political it is. Good. And with the government, they have proposed something, and I think the federal government can step up now and say no tax for teachers.
All right. Yeah. And I would have some follow-up questions here, but I want to keep it a little bit good on time, so I'll go to the next topic. And you say there's an immigration crisis in Calgary.
Yeah.
So did you want to expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, when it comes to the issue, so there was topics at debates and things about affordable housing, access to housing, social housing. When I did my research on this, it really came down to the influx of people living in Calgary. And that's a big issue. It caused issues with employment. So employment went down, and also people being housed went down. And so it caused a situation where we weren't ready for it. Now, immigration's a good thing if we want to support, but there was this belief that we had to have this influx of people. What I really believe this was people like Justin Trudeau at the federal level parading around in the international community saying, I'm helping people. Now, when you're dealing with international politics, it's all about making good deals. And Trump, that's why Trump has relationships with these people, because when you watch Putin and Xi Jinping, they're making deals, right? They're making deals with each other, and really, even if you don't like somebody, the foundation of influence is actually reciprocity. It's more important than likability or even authority. Reciprocity is always number one. So in the international realm, our people are always going to win through reciprocity first. That's the key. The science, and there's tons of research on this, and there's a great book called Influence by Robert Cialdini.
Yep.
He kind of made a popular social science book so people can understand this principle, but it is the key. Even if you don't like people, reciprocity is the key influence factor here. And so I think what Justin Trudeau was trying to win with likability, but that's not how you win in international politics. How you win is through reciprocity and through good deals. And so what we did is we brought in a lot of people. That's good, but the policies weren't matched with housing. And so there just seemed to be a disconnect between federal, municipal, and provincial policy, and I just think it was it was not well done. And one of the challenges is now we have low employment because the jobs weren't there, and when employment goes down, labor mobility goes down too. So people don't want to leave their jobs. So people get stuck in jobs, and also bosses realize this, and so it actually rewards bad managers. So when we're having this mental health crisis, the mental health crisis is directly related to the immigration crisis, because now you got people stuck in bad jobs, and the jobs are actually some jobs are getting worse and worse for people because bad managers are getting away with treating people poorly. So we got to get the employment rate up. We're looking around the world, 97 to 98% is doable. We don't want tax-dependent jobs, people working at the CRA, or at the post office. No, we want real jobs with real businesses here. And what we're looking to do in Calgary is lower the business tax for commercial property, because it's ridiculous. Like it's unsustainable for new businesses, because old businesses, they've got things done, but new businesses, young entrepreneurs who are ambitious, want to get things done, they need great environments to do their new social businesses, because most businesses in the future are not necessarily online businesses, because AI is going to be very competitive. It's going to be very little opportunity there, but the opportunities around serving each other, and creating great environments. So we need to get our next entrepreneurs great access to commercial real estate, and the best way to do that is to get the tax done. Like on my clinic, we pay about $30,000 a year in tax just for a small clinic. Unsustainable, and that could go towards paying for youth employment. and right now it's going to feed City Hall, which is extremely
Yep.
inefficient. So we're going to be making cuts there too, and also we're going to be augmenting City Hall budget for the. I can talk to you about the protection force. 600 new firefighters.
I wanted to ask you about that,
Yeah.
making the fire and rescue sexy again, right?
Yeah, we're going to make the fire department sexy again. No fat firefighters, and I know it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's true. I went and met these guys, and one thing that they needed is we needed more police officers, police force officers, okay? So 600 police force officers, easy to do, okay? The next thing is 600 fire and rescue
And
professionals.
Sonia had promised 500, right? So
500.
you're going a little bit more.
Yeah, I could go to 700 if you need to, but I think 600 is reasonable because my plan is to unify the forces. You know, just like Einstein was trying to do, you want to unify the forces, right? You know, very
Did you want
vibrant
to-
here. You know, they're very vibrant.
Yeah, very vibrant.
Yeah, they're all laughing. Okay, so with this unifying the forces, fire department. So we call it fire and rescue force because the fire department isn't just fighting fires; they're actually rescuing people from medical problems. So if you're having a heart attack, you're choking, they're going to show up. But I went and met with some of the leaders of our fire department and some of our elders in the fire department. They said we can't get to places on time. These fake fabrics, they combust very fast. So once they hit a certain temperature, they turn into essentially their own accelerant. So you get this terrible smoke, and they're getting lots of toxins in their bodies. So the other thing too, we're getting 20% raises, and I don't think Sonia can do this. 20% raises for all of our frontline workers at the fire and police force. The other thing too that they weren't talking about is to unify them is the resilience force, and this is really what unifies them, because the resilience force, these are intelligence officers like you see at the CIA or MI6 or the Communications Security Establishment in Canada, but we're going to make sure that we're formalizing this in Calgary because they're going to be doing a lot of investigations. Right now, the fires, if this continues, we're not going to be able to keep up with the investigations to understand, is there domestic terrorism happening in Calgary, because there have been coordinated attacks, so multiple individuals attacks with restricted weapons on civic infrastructure and civic employees. So is this domestic terrorism? I think we're going to find out some very interesting facts soon, and that would be 300 resilience officers. And so the current structure that this mirrors, that we're going to adopt into this is our current emergency response teams. They have a spot just north of here, just north of downtown. They have some facilities and some other facilities that are not made aware to the public. The other thing too with this is, if you're interested in IT, we also have a dark fiber network in Calgary. So we're going to be using our resilience force to really upgrade this, because University of Calgary has some projects with quantum algorithms and quantum algorithm protection. So we're going to be looking at post-quantum algorithms for data security in Calgary, and we do have this dark fiber network that we need to take care of too. And I think people forget about it, just like they forgot about the water. So in terms of what we're doing, though, protection force, this is going to be 1,500 jobs. And how are we going to, I think Gondek, who's going to be gone, she was trying to say, oh, Sean, you can't train 500. Well, I'm actually an expert in education. So what we've done is we put together an idea of a bachelor's degree program, so we can get people right out of high school, we can train people. And it's not just in the cognitive domains of learning, it's also in their psychomotor domains. So they're going to be doing a lot of exercise. And that's why I said, we're also going to be getting them protein powder, all these toxins that they're getting from the smoke from these fake fabrics. We're going to be looking at IV therapies, saunas, activated charcoal, vitamins. They're going to be healthy, very healthy, and we're going to do our best to take care of them, because they're actually sacrificing their lives so that we can live a little longer. But they don't get to live longer if they get cancer from from these things. So they're really sacrificing their lives. So it's time we stepped up at 20% raises. Okay, for existing people, 1,500 new positions. We're creating jobs, real jobs in Calgary, and we'll be training them through a 3-year bachelor's program. This is innovative. We're going to create an economy of protection. This economy of protection really can look like, right now we're bringing in firefighters from all over the world to fight wildfires. Calgary can be the center where we train a lot of these great people. And why isn't Calgary exporting these great minds and these great people? So we have to have a great place to train them. We have some training facilities. They're a little disorganized, to be honest. They've told me they're a little disorganized right now in terms of how they can, but I think it's not that they're disorganized, they're just not focused, because they don't have a leader. They're under layers, especially the fire and rescue force, they're under layers of management at the city. They are going to have a seat at the table at the council every single time, because this is our protection force. And so we're going to be looking at also an independent civilian oversight commission, which they've asked for. 100% we can do that. So we're going to have a police commission, fire and rescue commission. Also, our resilience force is going to be led. We already have a position at the city called Chief Resilience Officer, okay, and that they're going to be leading our resilience teams to protect us in the future.
You mentioned Trump. I just want to get a quick answer. Are you supportive of Trump, or are you wary of Trump, or what's your kind of take on Trump?
Well, I think with Trump, you got to make deals with Trump. Trump is a deal maker, and his job is to represent the interests of Americans, and Americans are always helping us. Like, for example, they sent 3 fighter jets over Calgary when we were threatened by terrorist attacks out of Germany, which ended up not to be true, we've heard, but they are helping us, and this is through NORAD. I think Trump makes good deals for Americans, and so if you look at what's happening in Calgary, they're not going to be able to deal with Trump, because Trump's very interested in Calgary, very interested in Alberta, and making some deals with us, and including Kevin O'Leary has been working too to help bring some deals here too. But look what happened with the arena deal. I think this arena deal was the worst deal in Calgary's history. I've never seen a worse deal in my life, and it was a good deal for the billionaires, and so good for them. You know, I'm never going to blame somebody for making money or for doing a good deal, but Calgarians lost out, and we don't yet know how bad of a deal this is, because we have to see how, you know, we have to pray and hope that people are going to do the right thing, and it's going to help Calgary. We have to work very hard, but there was very little protections in terms of return on investment for Calgarians legally. And when you're making good deals, you've got to have those legal protections. And so that's why I proposed the city 10 departments. So we currently have like 8, 9 departments, but 10 departments, and they need to know who their customers are. So 5 internal departments, 5 external departments. And of course, the foundations for a great business or a great corporation would be the legal department first. So that we have great lawyers at the city, but they need to be recognized for their hard work and realize that they are the foundation. So we have legal, then the finance department, then we have people. So right now they have like all these names, I like one word, people. Okay, so their job is people, and then we have operations, and lastly is communications. But the issue I have with operations is right now, if you look at the budgeting, they're just using it as just this big dumping ground for all these budgets. So it's going to be sorted out, and their customers are internal operations. And then the services, so I've broken down services into 5 other categories, and my most important category is land, the land department first. And the beauty of this is the people at the city, I talk big change, but really this allows us to do 1 department at a time per month, and I alternate interior, exterior, so that they have time to actually catch up. So on the 4th Friday, we actually, of every month, so it's actually going to slow down change at the city because it's going to be quality change. The 4th Friday of every month, we actually publish what's been implemented for that specific department. We're very focused, and then the interior department or the exterior department, like those business units, will actually have a whole month to actually implement those changes without being, you know, stressed out by council. So they already have these business units and service lines in there. So actually this integrates seamlessly with this immediately. So we can actually start with this quality improvement process. And that's, people said, Jaeger, I was out the other day meeting with seniors and people who worked at the city, and they said, Jaeger, we have these politicians, they're all the same. They keep coming back every so many years. They keep saying the same bloody things. They keep making promises we don't trust. And I said, I believe that because it's a low trust council. They're like at 50% trust, and they're individual polling ratings. Like, we've never seen a council this unpopular, I think, in terms of recent history. So how are we going to do it is every month people know what we're working on. People can understand how the city works. 10 departments, 5 interior, 5 exterior. We go through them one month at a time, and council's meeting twice a week, every Tuesday and every Thursday, except for in June and December, because those are going to be, I have other things planned, and I also have things planned like Workers' Day. It's going to be the fourth Friday of every May, and also it will be like a Calgary Day, and that will be the 4th Friday of every November as well. So we'll have some rituals built in to help people really find, we can celebrate success at the city so that we can get people back on track. I think people have lost their way, and they just need a little bit of guidance. And you can try and get there and fix all these small problems. It will never end. Because it's so integrated with the community. The city of Calgary is really integrated with every aspect of Calgary, and so we do need to fix the top-down approach. And all we need to do is just fix how the council integrates and give permission to people and really listen to them once again. So that's integrating with council. How are we going to integrate with citizens? It really comes down to the wards. So more council meetings, and we're going to respect communities. People talk about blanket rezoning. Blanket rezoning was a big problem because it disrespected the community level of organization within our society. So we are going to bring back community associations. We're going to make community associations great once again in Calgary.
All right. And just a yes or no, do you support Alberta becoming the 51st state? Just a yes or no?
No, I don't.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify. All right, I want to move on to some more interesting topics now. Why don't you tell me about the climate emergency and kind of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the climate emergency was a deal. It's a deal. These are all negotiations. And so this emergency, by putting this in, allowed Gondek to access more funds for the city. So one thing Gondek's really good at is money. You know, she's really good at finding ways to get money for people. But then there's not a lot of transparency on it. And the issue is what are the consequences of this money? Because if somebody's giving you something, they always want something in return. Right? There's no free lunches in this government, no free lunches. So what were they asking in return? Well, if you look at the strategy that was put forth, they were looking for qualitative measurements. And so what they do is they get these strategies approved and it justifies whatever work they're doing. And then they just start doing whatever they want. So it has little control. And we want a more quantitative approach to climate change. The climate is always changing. Climate is always changing. We live on a planet.
That's true.
It's always true. So one thing I really didn't like about this too there was no focus on water. And I think, you know, we are, as humans, and water is kind of like the lifeblood of this planet. It helps to regulate the temperature, so the ocean currents. It, you know, there's the currents of the oceans. They're almost like blood vessels that keep the temperature very stable. And so what happens is when we disrupt the balance of the water, because it's really around the water cycle, that's what makes our planet unique. That's what makes us 70% water. Yep. The challenge is when you disrupt this balance and you're not focusing on taking care of water, you're going to have more challenges with extreme weather. And so with extreme weather, there's two types of flooding that I like to look at. So we classify fluvial and pluvial flooding. So fluvial flooding is flooding from the river, what we saw here in 2013. But pluvial flooding is from pluvial, meaning from pluie, like rain, so precipitation. So it's flash flooding, and I've already seen this happening in Calgary. And we have they weren't really focusing on stormwater management as much as they should be. We have really smart people at the city, scientists, who know this, and we have strategies for these. It's called the riparian area. So my climate strategy is really focusing on water, because that's the key here. It's like if you have a computer, you put in a cooling system, the system that allows for the proper functioning of like a high-end computer or a quantum computer is a cooling system. So the water is key, and the blood vessels, we call these riparian areas. So these are the areas close to the banks of the river. So this is a key function for us. And to get money, so my approach to climate is really all about water. And then in terms of that is actually understanding from the cloud all the way to your cup. When you have the water. So also looking at the pipes in the city, we have some real disasters going on with the pipes. We already had disasters, but I can tell you there's disasters that could happen that are going to start making people sick. There's valves that have been implemented maybe 16 years ago, and people shouldn't be telling me this, but they trust me because they know I'm going to fix these issues, and they know it's dangerous, and they really trust me. But there's some valves that have to be replaced, because we could have biological toxins backing up in our water system if we're not careful soon. And there's also, so we've got to take care of that too. Yeah.
All right. This is an important question. How are you going to deliver lower taxes as well as better services?
Yeah. So the first better service we're going to focus on is getting the Calgary Protection Force, unifying that so I can protect it, because right now the fire department is going to, if anybody goes in there and says, oh, don't spend money, it's going to negatively impact the fire department. The fire department is under attack in Calgary. So we're going to have the fire and rescue force. We're going to protect this. We're going to increase funding to there because we have a lot of money at the city. The next strategy we're going to use is I talked to one of the former accountants for the city. So this man is very smart, and he said, Jaeger, this is how you do it. Because he was one of the people managing the city before. And we're going to be looking at, because the challenge we have now is federal fund. They're going to be a little bit more fiscally responsible on the federal level. So we're going to be looking at maybe some of the money that was promised to Calgary in our capital budgets and stuff and commitments might not be there. So we need to prepare for a 10% decrease in spending, and they can do that. They can absolutely do that. You know, I was talking with people, and they agreed with me yesterday who were from the city. There were people sitting in their cars, not doing anything every day. So what we can do is reduce that, and I want people to keep their jobs, important for me. And so one thing we can do with this as well is if they're not being productive, we can find ways for them to be productive so the city can generate more revenue, like even the fire department generating revenue across the world, or in at least Alberta. And the other, reducing expenditures in most departments by about 10% is very doable, and we're going to do it with them. and it's going to be 1 month at a time. And so then the next strategy is a little. Calgary's been playing it a little too safe when it comes to innovation because they're worried they'll get in trouble. But I need to give them permission because our municipal bonds are rated very high. Calgary is a very high trust investment for people. So in terms of looking for investment, we do want to encourage investment in Calgary in terms of our municipal bonds. One thing though is I think we can give them permission to be a little bit more pro-growth and pro-innovation. And we're going to be making better deals too. Like when we're giving out grants to somebody like Platform, I love Platform, but why are we giving out money that, I want a little bit of return. If we're going to invest in Platform and these things, I want to see some return on this money too.
For sure.
And they're going to feel better because right now the places like Platform are worried that their funding is going to get cut by the city because they're asking for free money. And when you start to give a little bit, the reciprocity, we build that relationship that will last beyond any single mayor. So people are going to say, hey, they're actually bringing in money for the city maybe we give money because we think they're improving the social, but even on some small loans, there has to be a little bit of reciprocity on the paper because it's going to build a really strong relationship and they're going to feel good about doing this too. So we're going to make some good deals too with our civic partners. They're going to be making money and they're going to be motivated to make us money. So everybody's going to be super motivated to make money for the city. But in terms of our investments, I want to see a financially independent Calgary for basic services over the next 40 years. So I've already been working with our partners. Say I want to see a plan. 40 years, like retiring, right? Like how you'd plan for your retirement. Difficult for people not even think about retirement. Even seniors can't even think about retirement. But we have a very solid foundation at the city financially, and I say I want a 40-year plan to retire Calgary from taxes. And then we can decide how we tax, because there are benefits to using property tax to help modify behavior of foreign investment. We have to balance supply and demand when it comes to our land. But I want to see a financially independent Calgary one day. It's not impossible. We see other places. Look what happened with the Vatican. We can learn from the Vatican. They control a lot of land, a lot of money, but they also did some bad things. And that's why with our new Pope, they had to hire a mathematician to run the place. They said, who here knows how to use a calculator? So we can learn from the Vatican, the good and the bad they've done. But I really want to see for our basic services, we're doing a good job. We're almost at 50% revenue from our income. So I want to see that up to 100% for basic services. And then we can do property tax to manage supply and demand, but it's going to be very reasonable. But we got to do this over time, because if we drop taxes too fast, number one, we run into an income issue. And number two is we're going to run into challenges in terms of everybody wanting to be here. They're going to be very envious of Calgary. Everybody's going to want to live here. So there are places in the world without property tax. I think we're going to do it very reasonably. Yeah, so my goals for 2041, so it's a 16-year process. I have a plan every month to do. So we're looking at 0.3% for residential property tax, because we're going to lead the world, and we're also looking at 1% for commercial. That's groundbreaking. That for businesses, for young entrepreneurs, that's a game changer. You're going to see some of the best businesses being started in Calgary with these rates. It's just on a spreadsheet. Investors are going to be flocking to Calgary once they see this, but we have to do it responsibly. You can't do this overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah. We're going to do this responsibly, and that's why people, I think they really understood what I was doing, that long-term thinking, because the city has plans. I don't agree with the plans are kind of aligned with the globalist agenda. That's nice. That's true. That's nice for globalists, but they don't know Calgary. We have snow, and we're very different. And we have Indigenous people here. And the globalists have been, they sit in these rooms and they talk about what they think is good. These are good generalists. I call it general globalism. That's a nice concept. Then we as leaders, you need to elect a mayor who can take it and who's lived in Calgary, who understands Calgarians. So that's why we need to be really careful when we vote.
Do you believe in the Illuminati?
Well, the Illuminati as an actual formalized organization does not really exist. I can tell you, people in general are too stupid to organize like that, or people who think like they want to rule the world. But what I can tell you though is there are very smart people, like myself, like you two, high IQ people. And what we prefer is a distributed network of competency. So we naturally organize in terms of our family units. So everybody is connected to everybody. And one thing I think people need to realize is that these elites are actually less connected than everybody else. So somebody said, oh, Jaeger, you're running for mayor, I'm going to tell my friends, they're very powerful, they're very famous. I said, rich people, they rarely talk, they isolate themselves. They really isolate themselves. So these powerful rich people, they're often very isolated actually. So the real power that we see in our society is actually coming from real people. They just don't know it. And your voice is so powerful when you get out there and speak. Once people find their voice, and I really trust people, because what we have in these businesses is these elites get promoted based on self-promotion. So you get a disproportionate amount of psychopaths and sociopaths running these large organizations, and they intentionally hurt people, and they thrive in the chaos. But I really trust people, because most, do we trust that system? It's not big corporations running the world, it's psychopaths. Or do we trust most people who are good? 99% of people are good people. Look at what a peaceful city we live in most of the time. It's, if you need help from anybody here, they'll probably help you. So I really trust people in general. So that's the key, is really the people do run the world, but we need to set boundaries with these psychopaths and sociopaths. You need to say, be very clear, consistent, and have consequences. So that's why one of the best things you got to learn, the legal system. So you have legal consequences for these people, because they're weaponizing our legal system because they have money to pay for lawyers. But you don't need lawyers. You don't even need to pay lawyers to use our legal system. You just need to use ChatGPT, learn how to use it. But the power has always been in the people. The people have just allowed this to happen. So this belief in an Illuminati is not, I don't think it's very true. Most of the competency and the smart people, we prefer distributed competency networks.
All right, and why don't you tell me a little bit more about the wild horses?
Yeah, so let me tell you about this. So this is actually a highly political issue, because this is a great story of ostriches, horses are an allegory for humans, for sure, in our society. So these are sentient beings. You meet these horses, they're very intelligent. They're very sensitive. They have big brains, they have families, so they're just like us, but they don't speak English. And they live wild. They're beautiful animals. So what's happened with the wild horses is, I think, was a cycle of hatred. So there is a competition for land between cows and horses. And how this started, though, was people were being incentivized for capturing horses and selling them for meat. Okay, and at the end of World War II, we did use a lot of the wild horses in Alberta in terms of feeding Belgium. This was a big thing that we did. So they are used as feed animals too, but I don't think we should be, honestly, I am partial to vegetarianism. I do eat meat, but I think animals have to be treated really well. And so I always struggle with, that topic. I think that's something everybody thinks about sometimes. But in terms of actually these animals, so what was happening, people were capturing these animals, and they were selling them for meat, and this is the problem. So they were getting motivated to destroy our ecosystems, because the horses play a very important role in our ecosystem. They have very interesting grazing patterns. They help to reduce. They eat like dry grass. They help to reduce wildfires. They're very important. So with these wild horses, people were being incentivized, and then they demonized the horses, because they realized that they could, if they demonize the horses, they can go and capture them. But the thing is horses live in bands and families. And so when you start to impact one horse, you start to, their survival is based on their family, just like we are in our society. Our survival is mostly based on our family. And so they're damaging the families. And right now, I think they're not looking at the real science. Science requires real people to have their own experience and ask questions before they develop a hypothesis. And so right now what they're doing is they're looking at population control for the horses, and they're using, people are being financially incentivized to dart the mares and to also prevent them from having babies. But the challenge is now these babies were feeding the grizzly bears. So now we're finding imbalance. And I think we're at a risk of imbalancing our ecosystems if we don't really study these wild horses really well. And the science, our Ministry of Parks, Todd Lowen, he's starting to wake up to realize, boy, these horses are really important for everybody. These are nice animals. These are not hurting anybody. If you go and meet these wild horses, they're not going to meet you. It's like Harry Potter going to meet the animals in the forest. They know who the people are. And if they don't know you, I met some of the horses that didn't know the group I was with. They were about a kilometer out. They saw us, they're gone. And they go in single file. They're very discreet. But if they know you, they'll come and meet you and introduce themselves to you. They're not looking for food. They're not food motivated. They're not even motivated by petting them or anything. That's how they form a family bond. So touch is very important to horses. They're actually motivated through socializing. And you can learn a lot from these horses. So if we don't protect the wild horses, I feel our ecosystems will be at risk in Alberta. So we can find balance, but I think people need to really understand that these horses are actually helping us. The horses are helping, and so we need to help them, and we don't need aggressive management of these horses. It doesn't make sense to me, and if we do, we do, and we'll deal with it then. But it takes a long-term study because, again, predator-prey relationships that we naturally have with the grizzlies and the black bears, these are long-term cycles. So you can't make decisions quickly about the science. You need real scientists who aren't motivated, who are only motivated to really protect our ecosystems, because we are a part of our ecosystems. And Jane Goodall, I really love Jane Goodall. And she said, we are like a tapestry. And when you start pulling one thread and one thread here and one thread here, pretty soon, it can fall apart. So we have to be very careful about the species, and these horses are an important species. They were reintroduced. So horses have been in Canada or North America since time immemorial, before people were here. And some of these horses were reintroduced with European settlers. But we believe that there's some evidence to suggest that most of the natural horses to Alberta were actually went extinct 10,000 years ago, potentially due to human activity, could have been climate change, but they were healing the land. And I believe that there's no way to really check, and they've been doing genetic studies, but we had so many wild horses here, like when we sent them off to Belgium to feed Belgium after World War II. I think it's impossible to say whether or not. I believe there is a very good chance, I think, that there are indigenous horse genetics that are now in these populations. I wouldn't be surprised. And either way, it's a reintroduction of a species that was important for the ecosystem.
And what are your thoughts on the situation with the BC ostriches? I know you mentioned ostriches.
So this is just another example of poor politics. We have a system, right? We have a system, just like AI, computer system, automation, right? So policy and putting people in, like bureaucrats and stuff. This is automation, human automation, right? So it's a form of automation. And so good politicians, we want to put people in there. And so if we're trying to fix AI, look at the government as like an AI system. The only way to really take control over AI systems is to put people in. This is why Elon Musk had always proposed Neuralink, because you need to have somebody in there to actually make decisions with a subjective experience, because AI does not have a subjective experience. It's a calculator, it's a system. And it can have boundaries and guidelines, but it doesn't have a subjective experience that we understand, or it's different than us. So it's really important that the politicians make decisions. And right now, the people who stood up was the Supreme Court. So I'm glad they've stood up and say, this is ridiculous, guys. This is crazy. But I think Mark Carney, he should have just said, hey, guys, what the heck? Why are we, these animals, they're very beautiful animals. They create nests. They love each other. And I think it's just an example of how a system, like with MAID, people are being, I really disagree with MAID. I don't disagree with people having, sometimes people choose to end their lives, but people can choose to live. And what's happening with MAID is there's a financial incentive to murder people, and that's what's happening now. I've actually seen it. So what's happening with the MAID is people aren't ending their own lives. They're actually being killed. They're being euthanized. And I don't agree with that. I don't believe in euthanization of humans. I believe if people need to end their lives, there are some options, and we can have discussions around that. But my hard no is you're actually teaching people to murder. And that's a hard line I won't cross. And so it's a system. Right? Financial incentives. We saw this with the ostriches. People are being paid to do this. They're getting paid to bring trucks in and hay bales in. It's part of a system. So we see this with MAID. It's happening to seniors. It's happening to people with mental health illnesses. We don't even, these people are healthy. Their bodies are healthy. And potentially it's society that's unhealthy that's pushing them to this point. People don't exist in a vacuum. So people really, and I've heard people with disabilities, because of the issues of society, want to kill themselves using MAID. And we need to be open about this. Talking about self-harm is actually a good thing. As somebody who teaches health professions, and what we teach in psychological first aid with Red Cross is that talking about people who want to harm themselves or end their lives, it's actually beneficial to talk about it openly. It doesn't need to be hidden, because what they're doing with the city now, people are killing themselves on the C train. So they jump in front of the C train, they cover it up. We don't want copycats. That it's not going to promote copycats. What it's actually going to do is help bring awareness. But what they're doing is they're actually benefiting from covering it up. And they think they're doing a good thing by covering up these suicides on the C train, and they're not. Because what's happening is people aren't getting help. And so they're pushing themselves. And the drivers of the C train, they're not allowed to talk about it. I know a lot of things I'm not supposed to know, because people are sick and tired of our low trust council that hasn't protected people. And they're protecting a system. and that's okay. We work with the system, and I think that's why the system has been so receptive to me, because they do trust me to work with the system. And some people want to burn it down, but we have a lot of opportunity. We can use the system for good. It's an amplifier. It's like a megaphone. We can use it for good, and we can use it for bad. And when we focus on the good things do get better. So that's what my plan is.
And tell me a little bit more about the bees.
The bees. Yeah, so one thing that's really important about bees in our ecosystem, so they're pollinators, right? So they're one of the most important species, these pollinators. We have a lot of native bee species in Alberta that people don't know about. So it's really interesting to learn about the different species of bees. They don't all have the same kind of hives. Some live in the ground, so there's a lot to learn. Some of them look like flies too, so you may mistake them for bees. And people are afraid of bees because of bee stings, but I show people you can go up, you can even touch the bees. You can pet, the bumblebees, you can even touch, be careful. Okay, some people are allergic, but you can actually touch the bees sometimes. They're very nice creatures. If you're not there to hurt them, they're going to leave you alone most of the time. But so with the bees, one of the challenges we had with why were we seeing a collapse? This is called colony collapse disorder. Why were we seeing plummeting in the species of the bees? And so what we found is that the bees require access for their immune systems, because this is a viral issue with the bees. They require access to certain fungal compounds. So these fungal compounds are found in the mycelium. So this is the fungus that grows in the ground. And the fungus in the ground has a lot of they're like very strong chemical factories, because these fungi in the ground, their mycelium is like one cell wall thick in terms of, it's like capillaries, like our small blood vessels. So in order to protect themselves, they have a lot of chemicals. And so these chemicals, the bees are actually like a vitamin. It's almost like a vitamin to them, are using it to support their immune system. And so when we study them and supplement the bees with fungal compounds from like reishi mushrooms or some of these medicinal mushrooms we use for humans too, we find that their resilience towards viruses goes up huge. And I think this is a good example of what's going on with humans. So we know that now button mushrooms, this is an explosive topic. Button and portobello mushrooms, we do have certain heat-sensitive compounds in there that are, there's a mushroom mob out there, but there are certain, so you always want to eat cooked mushrooms. Never eat raw mushrooms. But even button mushrooms, which can contribute to, that have carcinogens in them, that are heat sensitive. Okay, these are agaritines and stuff. These heat sensitive compounds, they're also used to make explosives. That's why I said it's explosive. But these like agaritines and stuff, these are heat sensitive, so always cook them. But we've even studied button mushrooms can boost people's immune system. So I think with our water, because we purify it and we've damaged these riparian areas, what happens is the water would come down and filter through the banks of the river. There's a lot of mycelium in there. And so the water we used to drink actually contained a lot of these same compounds that we discovered the bees needed to survive. And so now that we have over-processed water, like adding fluoride into it, is just another example of going in the wrong direction. We're stepping away from the nature that kept us safe and preventing viruses. So something like COVID-19, we would probably see, and even in cancer patients, you would see better immune systems in cancer patients when you expose them to things like the turkey tail mushrooms have been studied. And you don't even need the fruiting bodies, you could, it's actually the compounds from the mycelium. So I think we need to also look at people, this is something we need to take care of our health first. But in terms of my values, that's how I look at all of these things when it comes to our municipal government. Health and liberty of individuals first, strong, prosperous families, and then we move into free enterprise and free association, and that leads us to government as a service. And so we need really smart people. And I can tell you, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but of all the people
you're pretty smart.
I'm pretty smart. I'm pretty smart, but I'm the smartest option right now. And I think it's really important that we have people who understand and are also humble. But my background is healthcare, and taking care of a society starts at the cellular level. For life, and it doesn't just start at the person and rights and freedoms, because that's a legal system, but taking care of people starts at the cellular level and the chemical level too. And that's why we saw policy of fluoride. Fluoride's a very toxic substance, and so what it does is the fluoride ion actually replaces a hydroxyl group. So it's an OH group on our hydroxyapatite. This is the crystal that makes up our enamel. Does it make teeth more resistant to acid? That's the story, okay? But that's $1 million a year. We spent almost $30 million, and $1 million a year. Somebody's going to be mad at me because they have a contract. Well, I'd rather take that $1 million a year and feed single mothers who are homeless children. We could be feeding them. And if you want to get acid out of your mouth, the acid is, number one, use straws. Okay, be respectful of, try and use biodegradable straws. I think that's better, but also use and not paper straws. Terrible mistake. And the other thing is looking at rinsing your mouth out. So after you're done eating, because the bacteria will also metabolize the sugars into alcohol, alcohols, but also acids. What you do is rinse out your mouth with water when you're done eating, clean it out. And you can also use, you don't need to use fluoride. One of the best things, xylitol. But be careful, xylitol is toxic to dogs. It causes hypoglycemia and seizures. In dogs, they will die. So if you're interested in learning more about dental health, look into xylitol. But I think this was just another example of money running the game. It was a bad deal. $1 million a year, we could buy toothpaste for everybody. Or we could, somebody told me yesterday, why don't we just open a toothpaste factory here and sell it around the world? And I said, well, make more money, and we could use xylitol. It's a great compound. So,
And tell me a bit about your plans with bison.
The bison. So part of this really comes down to city government as a service. So our city hall, I want to turn that into Calgary City Centre University. This would be Canada's first tuition-free university, very easy to do, and have real credentials with real assessments. I heard the other day somebody was mentioning that some of these colleges, these people are doing online exams with no cameras on, and like that's a boundary. Like this is fraudulent, right? This is academic dishonesty. This is fraud, and so we're going to be calling people out because they're frauds. These are real frauds, academic frauds. But even people who have, they pretend they want to be inclusive and help people. No, they're not helping people. Even people with disabilities, you have to treat them like adults. And sometimes people, you'd be surprised how well people can do when you treat them like adults. So the focuses for this university really are to help people who are gifted and twice exceptional, because they need specific help. People who are very intelligent sometimes also have special needs too, so twice exceptional. Think Rain Man. Also helping Indigenous youth with psychomotor skills around reading and writing for eye movements, and also people with disabilities, because I have 3 special needs siblings who are also part Indigenous, and they got screwed over by the public system. It's a terrible system. It doesn't make sense to me. It's illogical. And it needs to change, but we're going to start to show people you can do things differently, and we're going to heal the people who are damaged. And in terms of the old City Hall, we're going to turn that into a truth and reconciliation. So how does this get to the bison? Well, I want to move City Hall, creating up on Tom Campbell's Hill. There's this flat area. It's a great example of climate change, how that actually used to be underwater, and it's this very flat plateau. We'll put a new city hall up there called Concordia. Everybody's going to sit in a circle, and so in our meetings, I already have them, a template scheduled out for that, and so we have a round table, so we're going to change the bylaw, a procedural bylaw around round table discussion. No more parliamentary rules. It doesn't work in Calgary because we have to go ward by ward so that people are actually represented. They sit in a circle. And so part of this is actually creating a civic corridor. So all the way up, we might be even looking a little bit more, but kind of a Telespark area all the way down past the Saddle Dome. I want to preserve this area east of downtown as a central park. And this Central Park area would take about a 400-year project, but I want to preserve the land there. And things like Telespark, Calgary Zoo, these are our civic partners. They have bison at the Calgary Zoo, so we're going to get those bison there access to more land. There's a lot of money put into the bison for reintroduction programs. It's a keystone species in Alberta, so there's a lot of money from the federal government doing it out in Banff. But we have bison at the City of Calgary, and I thought this is great for marketing too, right? It's cool. People love bison in social media. They're very cool animals. And if you watch them, they're very imposing, but they have quite the character, so they're really cool, and we need them, but we need to start grazing them a little differently at the zoo. I think they need more land at the zoo for the bison they currently have, so we could actually help the breeding program, a national breeding program for bison, and start to make sure that we're actually rotating the pastures properly, and it's going to help the land too, and it will be a great education, citizen education, and we can breed some of the best bison in the world. And also some people like to eat the bison, and I'd like to see a good breeding program here for helping the federal government out in reintroducing these species in Banff. Bison they are a very difficult species to manage, so that's going to be one challenge, but I don't want taxpayers to have to pay for it, but it's going to pay for itself, I believe, and it's great for marketing. Baby bison calves there, of all the animals that I studied, why do they do so well for marketing? Because I'm all about marketing for the city. We've got to make this city really marketable, and because they stimulate a lot of oxytocin. And so that's why on social media, baby animals, things like TELUS, there's a truck that just went by from TELUS. Why do baby animals do so well? Well, herd baby animals do really well. They release a lot of oxytocin in the brain, so we like them, because if they're not cute, they're not getting milk. Now, a baby human, it can be kind of ugly, because the mother will still love it because they bond with it, hopefully. But if you're an ugly cow or an ugly baby bison, you're not going to get much milk. So herd animals are very, very cute when they're babies, and I've proved this. I actually did testing on our Facebook and advertising, and I proved like baby horses. It's just our brains are hardwired for this for marketing, and TELUS got it right absolutely with the baby animals. So it's going to be a huge marketing, and people are going to get educated about the land, and it's all about teaching people about the land, teaching them about how that impacts our culture, and that gets the reinvestment. And so it creates a continuous cycle of engagement. And so young people get engaged in reality. You know, people are stuck in classrooms in these boxes. They're hot, they're noisy. These are awful classrooms. People need to be engaged in reality. You know, things you can touch, see. Right now, people get in their mind all these words. You know, and it's time to stop the words, stop the dictator in your mind. No dictators, I have a rule, no dictators. Stop the dictator in your mind, get into reality, learn from nature, and learn and get into the real world, touch things, smell things, listen, because people are just a little stressed out, and that stress is turning off our prefrontal cortex, our executive functioning. And so people are in this automatic mode. And all of the things that I want to do for Calgary, a safer Calgary, better services, less taxes, more respect in council in terms of respecting communities and wards, all of this is going to cause less stress. And so people are going to be able to think much better. And when we have less stress, we're going to have better families, more resilience, all the good things we want start with less stress for people, because right now people are too stressed. I think about 80%, I feel like 90% of the people out there are stressed right now about work. And so we're going to have very high employment, and people are going to get jobs they enjoy, and the businesses are going to do better because they're going to have better employees.
Would you support making Airdrie the 15th ward?
Yeah, so I've been looking at including in our plans, because Calgary is actually part of a larger plan for Southern Alberta, but I think it would maybe beneficial for Cochrane and Chestermere and Airdrie to consider joining Calgary because the great services. So what's going to happen is they're going to see what great services we have, and I believe that these other communities like Airdrie or Cochrane or Chestermere, I believe they're going to become new additions to Calgary pretty soon. I do respect their autonomy in terms of municipalities, but this is going to come from the province. But if we can get things sorted here, we are fairly interconnected, but people in Airdrie are telling me the transit. You know, we could have great transit, and this is going to help to establish the land to build the corridors for East, Canada Continental maglev train, as well as the Edmonton Express. So I've named it Canada Continental, that's our east-west passenger rail, and our Edmonton Express, that's our passenger rail, a high-speed passenger rail up to Edmonton. So that's about 2081. We can have some of these maglev trains, I believe. We can start on that, but we could start with at least getting to Edmonton, a high-speed rail about 300 kilometers an hour somewhere. Let's look at something like Vietnam or Italy. Look at their systems. We can work on this, but the next step in this vision that we all want is actually just to get the permission to use the land, and also to get the land for if we need to buy it, because in the future the land's going to be very hard to get. So we need to get on this now, get the land, get the permission to use the land, reciprocity, help people out with nuclear energy, get the Indigenous people energy. It's going to help them a lot in terms of small and medium-sized modular reactors is something we can help benefit Indigenous communities too, with essentially unlimited power. Like it's a joke, but we can have a lot of power here with nuclear. I call it thermal transfer technologies. It's very safe.
Do you think Tylenol is toxic?
Town hall, so City Hall, I think...
Or Tylenol, sorry.
Tylenol, yeah. So Tylenol is an extremely toxic compound for people, like any drug is, in terms of acetaminophen. So acetaminophen or Panadol, there's other names in other countries. I've been telling people this for a very long time. I believe approximately, I could be wrong, but double check, about 1,400 people die from Tylenol every year in the States. So there's three main manufacturers of acetaminophen in the world, and I believe they're mostly based out of India. But what they found is that a small addition of vitamin C or ascorbic acid in it will reduce the toxicity, and chemists have been working on safer compounds to Tylenol, because we've known about the challenges with toxicity for a long time. But the manufacturers, because of the legal liability, are in a position where they will not make the decision. So it actually has to be government officials who come out and say this is toxic, because the companies, even though, like one of the sons of one of the families who owns one of the manufacturing companies was very clear that they had these other compounds, but it has to be a political solution, because right now from self-protecting mechanisms for these big producers, they'll be liable for a lot of injuries. And the link between autism and Tylenol, when I was born in 1996, so I'm 29 years old. So this is about 30 years ago. When I was in the womb, my mom's doctor said, no Tylenol. no Tylenol. They've known this for a long time. I just think some people, they used to spray DDT on kids. It's, and all of these chemicals are very, you have to be very careful with chemicals, and even natural things can be very toxic to developing minds, just like alcohol. Alcohol damages the DNA. So yeah, Tylenol, very toxic. Be very careful with it. I wouldn't recommend taking it unless absolutely necessary. It reduces empathy in people too. So it can promote selfish behaviors, which is not always bad. Some people are over empathetic. It can help reduce anxiety. It's an interest how it works in the brain. But I'd recommend against taking Tylenol if you can avoid it. One thing you can take that it has been proven to reduce pain is simple magnesium citrate. See if it works. Take magnesium citrate. People have migraines. Why are people taking Tylenol? Seniors I understand for arthritis and stuff, but reason to not take Tylenols for migraines. If you have migraines, take magnesium citrate. It helps to block the NMDA receptors. It's a modulator of NMDA receptors, so magnesium. And magnesium citrate, it's inexpensive, and there's more expensive ones, but I don't always trust those more expensive ones because actually I've seen they've been mixing them. So just trust, tried and true magnesium citrate with a lot of water because it has osmotic properties that draw it into the water into the intestine. So drink a full glass of water, 250 cc's with 300 milligrams of magnesium citrate is pretty safe. Talk to a pharmacist if you need to. But if you're on medications or you have a doctor, talk to them first. But take it in the morning. People are trying to take magnesium in the evening. Now, sleep is a very active process, and so you want to make sure that if you want to sleep well, you have to live well. And it was always, I read in a book by the Dalai Lama, he said, a Buddhist saying was, we die in the way we live. And I think it was maybe a mistranslation. I think it's, we sleep in the way that it was more of a daily thing, that we sleep and we rest. I think the word was rest. We rest in the way that we live. And so in terms of that, if you have a good day, you sleep very well. So be proactive with the magnesium. Take it in the morning. And people with migraines, headaches, you're going to see it go down pretty quick, especially migraines with cortical spreading depression. That starts in the back of the brain due to potassium and glutamate overexcitation, which is what we see in those migraines with auras.
Why are neckties dangerous?
Yeah, so I thought it was a ridiculous assertion that neckties cut off blood flow, but I looked, there's some research on it. They do actually can impair blood flow to the brain. Also, they have a lot of bacteria. People aren't washing them, right? They're made of silk. And also too, it's like, if you ever watched the movie The Incredibles, Edna Mode with the costumes, no capes. Well, I believe no neckties. And there's a funny story, some people may have heard my grandfather. They told him, he used to work at the city hall, and they said, Monty, you have to start wearing a necktie to work. And that's the rule. So he said, malicious compliance. So he showed up to work with a necktie, but no shirt on. And he said, I'm following the rules. Let me show you. He was right. There was no requirement to wear a shirt.
Was he wearing pants?
He was wearing, I think they would have arrested him, but he wasn't wearing a shirt, he was wearing the necktie, they never bothered him again. Malicious compliance, and that's something that's like the work to rule issue we have with unions, but sometimes they push you too far, and neckties are, doctors don't wear neckties, and also too, white lab coats, any coats, really you got to roll the sleeves up. So if you see me a lot of the times, I have my sleeves rolled up. One big thing that we're going to do at City Hall, all public buildings, hand washing stations. So when you go to a food court, there should be a hand washing station in the middle. Go wash your hands. Monkey see, monkey do. So the mayor every day come and wash the hands. And people are worried about masks and COVID. Worry about washing your hands. Hand sanitizer doesn't cut it. It doesn't feel good. And we're going to have really good smelling soap, because what happens is people go to wash their hands at a cafeteria in the washroom, smells bad. And those washrooms at City Hall, behind council chambers, I was there the other week, there's underwear. Like, they're not cleaning them. And this is Gondek's fault. They're not clean. Like, she needs to go in and clean the bloody washrooms. I will go in and clean the washrooms myself. They're shoving underwear in the metal parts. It's disgusting. And you know what? Good for them. You know what? You make a mess of that washroom, because I'm not calling for messes in washrooms, but like, these people are being disrespected. In terms of the indigenous people in our history. It's just a mess. And so you go into washrooms, bad smells. And I was talking to my friends at Alberta Health, formerly Alberta Health Services, and they said, Jaeger, we're going to have really good smelling soap. Aromatherapy. And these are scientists, researchers, because we know smell is associated with things. So we're going to use really natural things, and local companies like Rocky Mountain Soap Company, they make some really nice smelling soaps. They do a great job. So, but we need to, and there can be other competition too in terms of soap, but really good smelling soap, and you make it beautiful. And people said, part of my plan for getting the water fixed, so we have some acts of parliament and also legislative innovations for getting money to fix the pipes in Calgary. Part of that was people thought I was stupid when I said we're going to have sparkling water fountains. fountains. They thought I was joking. And I said, well, if you've ever been to Rome, you'd know they actually have public sparkling water fountains. You can go fill up your water bottle. I see people coming with their water bottles, locals, people, they love it. And even at the San Francisco airport, you go in, you get off the airplane, you arrive in San Francisco, you can fill up your water bottles, and they have three things. They're out in the public, people can see you doing it. So actually filling up the water bottles, and to pay for all this, again, not expensive, but it would actually be part of our Alberta Aqua Capture program, which is intended to bring in federal investment as well as investment from the provincial government, because we're going to have a lot of water pressure. So I want to have a mentality of water abundance, no more water poverty. It really bothers me, this water poverty mentality. I got to get rid of it because I want to use water. It's like we're addicted to water. You pipe it into your house. Humans love water. We are mostly water. I want us to feel rich in water once again. And we're going to have very high pressure because of the dam projects. So they're going to have to, we call it the Calgary Clean Water Conduit Program. So the Clean Water Conduit Program is really getting money. And there's going to be leftover money. So we're going to get fountains, sparkling water fountains, just like they have in Rome or in San Francisco. They don't have sparkling water in San Francisco. We're going to lead the world, and hand washing stations. And the soap is going to smell very good because you have to have a positive experience. If you have to go and eat, you're not going to go in the washroom and smell the bad smells in the washroom. Don't wash your hands. And this is going to reduce sick days, because most of those people, when they're getting headaches at the city too, not migraines, but headaches, a lot of times when we have headaches, it's actually an underlying infection. That is, that's one of the first. Hey, look, the horses. So you see these beautiful black horses. These are the police horses.
Oh yeah.
These are beautiful animals, and we're going to get more horses too for the police. I love horses. Yeah, and they're going to be very sexy horses, just like our firefighters. Big muscle. These horses, and they're going to have beautiful black coats. They're going to be shiny. These are beautiful animals. They represent something that's very important to Calgarians, and that's family, that's ourselves, resilience, and we're going to have better business here, and our government is once again going to be service. It's going to be government of service to Calgarians once again. Lower taxes, better quality services. It's that simple.
And what are your thoughts on aliens and UFOs?
Yeah, in terms of extraterrestrial life, I think, it's got to exist. Some people, in terms of our government, have come forward with information around extraterrestrial life and the planet Earth. I believe there are technologies that we can look at, like anti-gravity technologies. Theoretically, they are possible. In terms of if you look at, in terms of quantum electrodynamics, certainly anti-gravity. But the amount of energy we'd have to put into these systems currently, from my understanding, is astronomical. So there are technologies out there that are very cool. Are they extraterrestrial? I think we have pretty smart people on this planet too. And I don't know, I love Star Trek, Next Generation. It was a very diplomatic approach to, I do have a page on mayorgus.ca/UFO. And I think really important that we do report, and we do actually collect the information on UAPs, because we do have challenges with UAPs in national defense. So this is an important program for me to engage with in terms of our national defense. And UAPs are a real issue, and we've seen this over Europe. And these are man-made crafts. And we've got to be very careful about what's going on, because we have dictators in this world. So in terms of nuclear war, we could see the devastation of mankind in 20 minutes. And it's almost happened a few times. And luckily, somebody looked out the window and made a good choice. And we had humans in charge, not, and humans are fallible too. So you got to have humans and computers. But there was a very close call. We could have ended up in a nuclear war across the world.
Well, we're getting close now, don't you think?
Every day we are close to a nuclear war, and nobody wants a nuclear war. It's more we're close to a nuclear war because of an accident, like a mistake in the system. And people are working very hard to prevent this from happening because of these nuclear weapons. They are tremendously powerful.
Do you think it's possible that aliens could already be here?
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know who they are or what technologies they would have, but I like the idea that if they would be scientists like us, and they would also respect life. One unifying philosophy in terms of dealing with extraterrestrial politics, because we're looking at, how will Martians live one day and how they'll create their own government, and it will be their rules. It's one infinite. We are all one. My philosophy when it comes to the universe is one infinite, one and the infinity sign. I learned that from a friend too, and it's an out of this world idea. One infinite. We're all connected, and in terms of how time works, I think one of the best options to understand, if you want to understand better how non-causality in our universe, look at things like hologram theory for understanding the mathematics of it. It explains a lot for holographic theory in terms of explaining time and non-causality, because there are things that we can't quite explain with our forces, and unifying the forces in terms of just unifying information. And information theory would be around a holographic principle in terms of what we need for future scientific advancement in this area.
All right, and my last question for you is, why aren't they letting you debate? Are you debating?
We'll see.
We'll
see tomorrow. I think the Chamber of Commerce is a very inclusive institution. So on global news will be there. So I believe they want to invite me. The media has called me and said, Jaeger, we want you on the stage. So let's see what they do. I did send them an email saying I am available to debate on the stage, and I will be there. So
okay,
I'll be there, and if they want to let me on the stage or not, that's going to be up to them. But there are consequences for being an enemy of democracy. The Chamber of Commerce is a very important institution, and they provide a lot of their long-range planning committee provides statutory appointments to our YYC. This is a matter of national security with YYC. We have appointment from the Government of Canada as well. And so I think they see the value in democracy. I think they see the value in transparency and inclusion. And so these are their principles that they use. And I think we have some very important people who are interested in seeing what we have to say to help, because I said the vision is to maintain trust of the institution, and also to maintain integrity and inclusion of any candidate who may want to participate in the televised debate tomorrow on the stage at the Jack Singer Concert Hall at 6:30. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground.
Ian, thank you. This is amazing. You ask you're such an amazing interviewer, because you ask like the important things, and you know why those details like the bees. You know why it's important.
Yeah.
Because they're all important.
Well, I wanted to give you a little bit of a platform to kind of get your ideas out there, and you did, and I think we'll let the people decide and make up their minds.
Well, it's almost like if you get to spend time with somebody, you kind of absorb their spirit as a hologram, and so you understand how they make decisions. And when it comes to your representation, I have a very, Calgary's my home. I always try to make sure that Calgary leads the world in whatever we do, and that it's right for Calgary. And I put people first, and input to any great system is going to be the people. So represented residents first. So that's what my job is, to represent residents. Well workers at the city, because that's our biggest asset, and productive partnerships. It's making good deals. And people make fun of Trump, but no, we got to have good deals, and it's win-win. So people, when we look at the budgets, they're going to say, wow, if the city makes more money and everybody in the city makes more money, I also can make more money with my contracts, because people are making money off the city of Calgary. They're going to make more money if the city does well. So they're going to say, hey, wait, this guy's onto something. Everybody wins when everybody wins. Yeah, because we don't live in a scarcity mindset. We have an abundance mindset. And so that's why we lead the world. And then we choose to live here as our home. And that's my vision, is Calgary. My vision starts with Calgary as our home.
Well, I'm wishing you the best of luck
in
this upcoming election. It was good talking to you.
Pleasure, Ian. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you can learn to vote at mayorgus.ca. Mayorgus.ca, and advanced polling is already open. You go in, and you already voted.
I did.
Yeah, and make sure to research counselors as well, important. And the other thing is the election's on October 20th. And I hope to see you guys at the debate tomorrow. We'll see. I think they're interested in having me on the stage. So we'll see if they are able to make that happen. I believe in miracles.
I hope you are able to debate, because that's a fundamental principle of our democracy. So
I believe open debate is a fundamental principle of our democracy. That's why we're bringing democracy back to Calgary. And thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.